Hello and welcome back to Conjuror. In this episode we will be having a look at a deck I've called First because it was the first deck that I started really winning with. It only has 30 cards, but those cards are God Supports Me, Power Surge, Paladin Kayla, Mesmer, Rogard, Shriek, Cull the Weak, Fire and Sword, Lilith, Hammer of Thor, Lord Victus, and Dravron. The principle behind this deck is to use your Victus to cycle your spells and use your Mesmers to stop their big creatures from attacking before you can kill them off. Your Shrieks are in there to use as blockers for your Rogards and also to take care of any quicksands. So we shall get straight into it. And we're up against a rat deck straight away. So next turn we'll play our Lord Victus. And that'll give us 6 mana to be able to play our Fire and Sword. However, they will probably play another few rats so they can get their pack rat up to 4 and then attack Victus and then use their boss rat to kill Victus. They haven't done that, so we can use our Fire and Sword, buy a mana and attack their boss rat. And that means next turn we can play our Fire and Sword again and kill the other boss rat. Here we go, Fire and Sword, kill their other boss rat. And then we'll use our Fire and Sword. And kill their boss rat. So we've just lost our Victus, however we get to play a Cull the Weak, or in fact we will play a Fire and Sword, draw a card and buy a mana. So next turn we will play our Lilith and we will Fire and Sword. Then what we'll do is we'll actually use a Hammer of Thor on this pack rat here, and we will take their boss rat off them and we will buy a mana so we can play our Dravron. So they're going to give me their pack rat. And oh, we just got a Victus, so we will use our Victus and we will play their boss rat and buy a mana. So really it looks like I'm on the ropes because I've only got 14 health. However, as soon as I manage to get rid of that boss rat there, it will be game over for them. And I can do it this turn through the use of a Hammer of Thor. I still have the mana to use Cull the Weak so I can kill off their rats. And they now have 2 pack rats in their hand, which means they'll surrender or they'll time out. And that is how you defeat rats with a non-rat hunter deck. Alrighty, so we've got first turn. We use our God Supports Me and buy a mana. So this deck relies on you building up your mana as opposed to hovering at one particular amount. Ideally you want to get above 10, preferably you want to max out at 15. and because that's what we want to do, we will spend these turns, these early turns at least, drawing cards as opposed to casting creatures. And luckily we did, because we drew 2 God Supports Me, which means they're now no longer on top of the deck, because that would be bad if the enemy forced us to have to start casting cards and we were relying on a creature to come through. So they've got a nice Gorthog there. However, we will just draw another 2 cards, buy a mana, and use our God Supports Me to take us to 9. We'll have 10 next turn, so we can play our Dravron, or we can play our Lilith with our Rogard and buy a mana, so we've got 10 all the time, and we've still got 1 remaining. So we will play our Lilith and our Rogard, buy another one, there we go, we'll have 11 for next turn. So we can play a Hammer of Thor and a Fire and Sword, or we can play our Victus and our Kayla. So it's interesting that they've used their Gorthog to attack our Lilith. We'll snipe that with our Rogard and use our Hammer of Thor to kill their Silgator off. Now we'll use our Lilith and we'll actually play our Kayla. She'll be out in the open. However, if she dies, we'll just have to use our Victus to bring her back. So we haven't seen them kill off our Kayla, so we will use her to attack through, and we'll use our Lilith to steal their Gator off them. Now we will play our Dravron, buy a mana, so we don't really need this Power Surge now. So there's a Silgator, we'll use our Hammer of Thor to get rid of it. Notice we had the 13 mana at the start of the turn, so we can use our Victus after we attack with Kayla. And our Victus will be able to recycle our Hammer of Thor. Now we can attack them for another 7 damage. We could have used our Power Surge to buy another mana, however that would put our Power Surge on top of our graveyard, and we want to get our Hammer of Thor, which is on top of our graveyard, back into our deck. So they've played a Lilith, and what we will do is we will use our Rogard to attack their Lilith and our Lord Victus to get our Hammer of Thor back, and we will kill their Gorthog with our Dravron, and we will play another Dravron, and at this point they should give up. Because I can use Hammer of Thor to kill whatever they bring out, I can also use a Fire and Sword to kill multiple weak creatures, and I can use Kill the Weak to destroy low strength creatures. So no matter what they play next turn, I can kill it. So they've used a Hammer of Thor, which gives them 1 more turn. So we can use our Dravron to kill off their Lilith, and we'll play our Dravron again and buy another mana. Notice we haven't used our God Supports Me. There's another Hammer of Thor, that's fine. It's Hammer of Thor for both of them, no worries. We just drew another Victus, which means we can play him. We've also got enough mana to play a third one, and this is where the cycle ability comes in, because any damage to these Victus, a Fire and Sword will put 3 cards from the top of my graveyard into the top of my deck, and the top 3 cards in my graveyard are, you guessed it, Dravrons. So here we go, we can use our Victus to attack, we can use our Hammer of Thor to kill off the Gorthog, we can use our Kill the Weak to kill their Rogard, and we can deal the final 5 damage. So there the Dravrons drew the fire. Unfortunately this time we haven't got the best opening hand. We've got a Mesmer which will stop any early attacks really, and remember we want to try and keep building mana with this deck. So we don't want to play, say, a Lilith for 5 next turn and then be stuck with 4 the turn after. Although we could do that, we don't want to. Depending on what they play, we may draw a card and buy a mana. So they've brought out a boss rat. We'll use our Mesmer and buy a mana. We could have Fire and Sworded to kill it off. We could have used our Lilith, however we can do that next turn. So if they choose to play a rat, we can kill it off with our Mesmer, and then we can use our Fire and Sword to kill their boss rat. Or we can play our Lilith behind our Mesmer and draw mana. I think the boss rat is in this deck just as a additional card, not so much for the power of it. I think it's just a supporter card like you would have seen in some of my other decks where you use the pack rats as basically cannon fodder. So what they might do is move the pack rat, attack with the boss rat, and then play something in front of a boss rat. Oh, that is disappointing. So we'll use our Mesmer to kill the pack rat, and then we'll use our Fire and Sword to kill the pack rat and the boss rat, and our Lilith to kill their boss rat. Then we can use our God Supports Me and buy another mana. So next turn we can get our Lord Victus out, or we can play another Mesmer. So they've used a Fire and Sword, that's awesome. That works for us just fine because that means we can play our Victus quite happily and buy a mana. They may choose to use a Hammer of Thor to clear out our Victus, but if they do that we'll get our Lilith back. Now remember, this whole time we've been drawing mana at every opportunity. So there's our Lilith back. So we can play our Lilith, and we can also play our Rogard. That's our 10 mana, so that's all we need to play our Dravron. And what they could do here is use Hammer of Thor to kill our Lilith, and then play another rat to kill our Rogard with this pack rat here. Next turn I'll play the boss rat up here where my Lilith is, and probably play the Kayla behind it. So exactly as I predicted. So we use our boss rat and our Kayla, and rather than playing a Shriek as well, we'll just buy a mana so that we've got 12 for next turn, which means we can place that pack rat there in front of our Dravron. Don't see the point in the Adara, but I'll kill it anyway. I'll use our Dravron, buy a mana, use our God Supports Me. So now we can play our other Dravron and our Mesmer. So they're going to Fire and Sword. And attack. That is a very interesting move. So we will use our Dravron to kill off their boss rat. We will play our Mesmer in front of their pack rat, and we will play our other Dravron in front of their boss rat. And then if our Mesmer doesn't get killed by their boss rat, we can use our Mesmer to kill their pack rat next turn. Now of course we've run out of big hitting creatures in our hand at the moment. So we will use our Mesmer to kill the pack rat. We will kill off the boss rat, and we can play our Shriek. We'll draw a card. God supports me. We'll play another Shriek. We'll move our Paladin Kayla behind our Drevron. We'll buy a mana to take it to 15, and then we'll use it to increase it past 15. So now if they choose to attack our Drevron with one of those pack rats there, over here, it'll kill both of them. However, they'll move it out of the way, so it kills this Drevron and that pack rat. Now I really want to draw a Fire and Sword right about now, or a Victus. So their hand is now completely empty. I drew a Drevron instead. Cool. So we'll use our Shriek to kill the pack rat, and we'll play our Drevron behind the pack rat that we stole earlier, and we'll use our Shriek in front of the other pack rat. Can't buy any more mana, so we'll have to end our turn there. So they're going to move the boss rat out of the way. Potentially stack it up behind a whole lot of other stuff. Alrighty, we've got a Lord Victus. So what we will do is we will attack their pack rat here with their boss rat behind it, with our Drevon, taking it down to 2 health. We will draw a card, see what we get. We've got to kill the weak. We can't quite use it, unfortunately. So we will use our Shriek to sit in front of our Drevon, and we'll use our Victus in front of their boss rat. So our Lord Victus will get our other Drevon, which was killed earlier, back, unless they kill something else first. No, it'll actually get our Shriek back, which died the turn before. So they're going to kill off our Drevon. And what we will do is use our Lord Victus to attack the pack rat here. Then use a Kill the Weak. That'll kill the Adara and the Lightbringer. And also this pack rat actually. Or not. However, they have put our Drevon back on top. So we can use our Power Surge to draw a card. To Paladin Kayla, we can play our Drevon and end our turn. This may be a tight finish, we'll see what happens. They may have another Hammer of Thor, hopefully they don't draw one. And if anything, we'll use our Drevon to kill this pack right here, so the splash damage kills our Lightbringer, and because the only thing keeping our boss rat alive at the moment is our Lightbringer, it will kill the boss rat as a result. We've got another couple of Lord Victors coming still. It'll be interesting to see what happens. So the boss rat moves, the Lightbringer moves, they're running out of time, they're going to time out, and we'll get a victory through a timeout. So we'll have a review of the deck we've been using. It is the first deck, you can see the stats there, 231 games won, 94 games lost. So we got to see our Lord Victor cycle there, get our Dravrons out, use them to deal some major damage, use Mesmer to halt the enemy advance, use our Roguards to snipe the enemy out, and use our Fire and Swords and our Hammer of Thors as board control. So you've been watching the first deck, I've been Lost One,
and you've been watching Conjuror.